Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip,
And I'm CJ.
and it is Wednesday in the rib after a circus of a meeting last night. But I apologize to all our fans and those who have to live just to watch our show so they can condemn it. But we never watched theirs. It was all my fault. I was down at the uh, Macros conference in Massachusetts Associated of Retired. Uh, so the retirees conference, like CJ, we have to get continuing education credits in order to stay on these boards, even though some people don't pay attention to what you learn down there, like fiduciary responsibilities. But yeah, the hotel had Wi-Fi problems. I tried the night before to link up. I started at 7 o'clock in the morning on the day of the show, and finally had to tell CJ we had to throw in the towel. So don't blame CJ. I'll take the whole nut on that one. That hotel, I was not a happy camper, and so were a lot of other people that had to use the Wi-Fi too.
I'm
So it
sure.
wasn't only me.
I'm sure because I mean today that's a necessity, and
Yeah.
especially in the business community. I'm surprised that the hotel didn't make sure their Wi-Fi was working. I know when I used to stay at the Sheraton, when I was travel nursing, they always made sure that every day they rebooted the whole thing at about 3 o'clock in the morning when nobody was on, and they made sure the system was up and running without a problem. Uh, because again, they had a huge business occupancy, and people need to do Zoom meetings and all kinds of video conferencing, and it's not easy. It's not easy if you don't have that access. I'm grateful that at times my cell phone, I can use my cell phone for internet connection if I'm out of the house and I'm somewhere else, and I can hook it into my laptop, but it's not the same connection that I get when I'm connected on a Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I tried that on my phone too, but the problem is there were no all the other and everything available because I got the search thing to search for networks,
Yep,
but the only network available was the Hilton network, and the Hilton network was down, and it was
right.
like they took a lot of heat for that. I know because, like you said, it's almost mandatory that you have Wi-Fi because business people, people even want to communicate at home now. They communicate via computers. So, well. Uh, so that's it. But but first, let's remind everybody tomorrow is D-Day, and
80
operate.
years.
Huh?
80 years.
Yeah,
Hard to believe it's been 80 years.
yeah, yeah. And
The
you know,
survivors of D-Day are all, well, the majority of them are over 100 years old.
yeah, yeah. We just lost two World War II vets. One was going to be 100 in October, and the other one was going to be 98. And a few short weeks ago, we lost two of our last. World War II. I think they may be the last two retirees that are World War II vets. There may be somebody in the school department that's still around because they have a separate retirement system. But I think in our system, I think they may be the last two World War II veterans, and that's a shame. And let's remember D-Day. Nearly 3,000 men died on the beaches of Normandy in Operation Overlord, and over 5,000 were wounded. So you're looking at 8,000 Americans. So
Have you ever seen pictures of the cemetery in Normandy for the soldiers
yeah,
that
yeah.
died? I mean,
Flanders Fields where poppies grow
yeah,
among the
it's,
crosses, row
it,
on row.
yeah, acres and acres of headstone crosses, and this morning on one of the major media networks, they were showing because they had a um, military lift of all the remaining veterans that could travel. They
Hmm.
put together 70 some odd men and women. I think it was all men, and they sent them with a full contingency of medical personnel to make sure that those people stayed healthy. while they were over there. And they're all going to be inducted into the French Foreign Legion of Honor Medal. They're all going to receive that tomorrow. I mean, that is a wonderful thing to be given that type of respect and that type of award. Um, it doesn't really, I mean, it doesn't make up for what they said, but a majority of those men who were spoken to about it said, to me, it seems like it was yesterday.
Yeah, it's a very solemn place, and I know they always run that movie. It'll be on probably today or tomorrow, and Saving Private Ryan, and the opening scene is of that movie, just horrifying when they were coming off the landing craft and getting machine gunned before they even got to the beaches and in deep water, and like I said, nearly 3,000 Americans at 2,925 or something like that. Almost just rounded off to 3,000 men died on those beaches, and another 5,000 were wounded. And in today's day and age, where there's no respect for our history and they're tearing down of people who contributed to making this country. That's why they're called the greatest generation. I mean, that was a it's something, and we should never forget it. Just like Pearl Harbor, and it is a very, very solemn place. I know a lot of people who visit there. I know that a good friend of mine, Neil Rossman, my attorney friend, he visited Normandy and the cemeteries, and uh, like I did visit some things when I was over there, when I was stationed in Germany. Um, but I didn't get to Normandy, but I did get to some of the concentration camps. And actually, we were stationed up in Bavaria. We were near Dachau. Actually, we had to go to Dachau to get some parts and stuff for equipment that we use. And, so we did unfortunately get to those things. But, lest we forget, and that's the problem. All the wokies want to erase history. They don't want people to know, the sacrifice that these men made for this country, and the sacrifice that's still being made for this country. So, like I said, when you vote no to give housing to homeless veterans, you deserve to be thrown off a cliff. You know who I'm speaking about.
I know who you're speaking about. Believe me, I know.
Especially when you're a veteran. They
Right.
cannot do enough for our veterans, especially the veterans who are having difficult times, who are having, a lot of these men came back, and they were never right. They have addictions, they have post traumatic stress, and all these things, and we're allowing them to live on the streets while we're allowing these illegals and paying $400 for their room. And we had one crash into a building, and they took them. We can talk about that at some point in time, and they can take them to the hospital for free medical care on our dime, but they can't prosecute them because they say they can't really identify them. Well,
Exactly.
so this is where we're at in this country. This is why the next election is so important. But let's quickly get back to the last night's meeting, which
Well, before we get there, we've got a couple of crime announcements to make.
okay, yeah, oh, that's right. Well, talking you got more. You got I think you got more facts. I was up at that seminar. You got more facts about them crashing into something, and
Well, let's see. We had a shooting over the weekend on Plymouth Avenue and Second Street. Lovely place. Um, the woman was shot in her thigh. It was non-life threatening, but again, we're a safe city. And then we had a shooting yesterday. Again, non-life threatening injuries, but another shooting. Hey, Paul, where's the safety? Where are we safe? Oh, wait a minute, we don't have bullets flying all over Fall River. I'm sorry. Okay? And I'm really tired of people saying, when there's a shooting in Providence, nobody attacks their mayor. we attack our mayor because our mayor says there's not a problem. In Providence, Smiley admits that there's a shooting problem. And he's working with the police department to stop it. And he's advising the community of what they're doing. Our mayor is not transparent. And our police chief isn't transparent. But obviously, our city council during budget hearings can be drooling and schmoozing all these department heads from EMS and police. You know, they approved 9 new hires for the police department. Chip, guess how many they gave to the fire department? Just take a shot in the dark. Just a shot in the dark.
This thing. Zero.
Zero. That's right. Zero for
I
the
was
fire
saying it,
department.
but I kept muting it because my finger hits it, and I leave it on too long, and it remuted.
Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, look, the council is and didn't some illegals hit a building too?
I was just going to get into that. On Alden Street,
My old neighborhood.
a pickup truck or SUV hit a 3-decker. I believe it was on Alden and Harrison Street. And the 3 people that were in there, I guess one was injured. They were all illegals, all operating without a license. But wait a minute, we give illegals licenses, remember? So they've got no excuse for that. And we took them to the hospital for free because they don't have health insurance unless it comes from the state. And the police decided they cannot arrest or prosecute because they can't identify the people. The federal government knows who they are. They've got their identities. Why don't we? Why can't we get that information? If it was you or I, Chip, that hit a house,
listen, CJ, you've just said why where we're always talking about this crime issue, that this is what we get. Lack of enforcement, and the people, the taxpayers and the legal residents of this country, in this city, are being victimized by these people. Harrison and Alden, God, that's where I grew up. I mean, actually, my godmother and godfather owned a store on the corner of Harrison. They may have hit that building. I'm gonna have to call my cousin. I said, to find out if they hit his building. So, because he's still got a store there, but they don't arrest them. Just like the illegal dirt bike guy that got hit, had to get sent to the hospital, but they didn't charge him for riding an illegal dirt bike. We've had this problem for years, but our mayor, it's always like, oh, what are you talking about? It was non-life threatening. So there's the Fall River excuse making. Well, shut up. We only had 2 shootings. Chicago had 31. Don't worry about it. See, this place is worse than this. I don't care. I live in Fall River. I want Fall River to be safe. I don't. If I want to go to Providence, I recognize that they have shootings there too. But I want the community that I live in to prioritize the safety of the public, and they don't.
And remember, this administration wants to promote tourism with water taxis and trolleys. If you're a tourist and you hear that you can stop at Fall River to take the water taxi or to take the trolley, but you might get shot, are you coming? Are you going to spend some time in Fall River? Are you going to
get hit by a truck driven by an illegal?
Yeah. Are you going to drive around with a flak jacket on? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, look, this is ridiculous, and this is the thing. It's about the denial. No matter how bad things are, they got a story, an excuse. Now let's get to the council meeting because I really got to hit this one. Monday
was funny as hell. Okay, yeah. I've never seen city councilors drool, lavish with praise department heads like I saw Laura Sampson do. And I got to give her credit for the way she was yesterday. Yesterday, she actually came out and defended the people of Fall River. She actually said she's sick and tired of hearing that we got to pay people more money because if we don't, they're not going to stay or they're not going to come here. Well, guess what? If they're not going to come here or they're not going to stay, that's it. That's it. Too bad. She says, I'm tired of hearing the excuses. So we always pick on the city councilors for when they're doing wrong, but guess what? Last night, Laura Sampson really did what was right for the people. And the thing that really got her, the thing that got Michelle, because Michelle was going to make a motion to cut the budget right then and there. And she wasn't sure if they were going to allow her to do it. The excuses that were spewed by the chief financial officer and the city administrator were unbelievable. On Monday, the city administrator would not let any department head answer the questions until our city council finally said, I don't want to hear from you. I want to hear from the department head. I'm tired of hearing from you. I want to hear from the department head. What, these department heads can't talk? They can't talk? We don't want to hear from the city administrator who's going to spew the mayor's propaganda. And yesterday, he forgot that he was a city administrator. He's spewing legal terms. And then he admits it. He says, oh, I've got to stop doing that. I got to remember I'm not a lawyer here. No shit, you're not a lawyer. You're not even a city administrator. There's a problem. Because remember, you can't do numbers. Yet you're the one talking about the numbers. I'm quoting you. You'll take the job, but you can't do numbers.
Well, I'll tell you, it's propaganda. The Monday was propaganda day because the Fall River propaganda machine is say everybody's great. We got the greatest department heads in the world, but they can't answer any questions. Maybe they don't run the departments well. In the old days, it was the department heads that got called up individually and got grilled by the city council because they're being paid to run those departments effectively and efficiently. But no, we just say everything's wonderful in Fall River. Now I'm going to give you an example. Our city administrator or pseudo city administrator was asked about purchasing.
Oh, yes. That was a big issue yesterday.
And he's like, well, nobody really, we don't, do we have records? Well, some, we have purchase order numbers. Well, not really. Well, we found that doesn't work. Let me explain something to you people. What he did was tell you why they all have to go fundamentally. Except for me. You wonder why we're broke? You wonder why we have no money? You wonder why they can never find the money? This is the way government runs. No accountability. That's why we have hundreds of billions of dollars missing in Ukraine that the taxpayer paid for. They sent all this money over. They're using it to put in their buying houses. They're funding their own government with our money. It's not supporting the war. It's lost. And Washington will not do an audit. They refuse to do an audit to find the money. They just say, shut up and send them more money. Well, Fall River does the same thing. And I'm going to tell you why this is just outrageous. 1991, when I found millions of dollars missing from the healthcare fund, and they said we were broke and we weren't, and we called Ernst & Young down to do a forensic audit. We found all the money. And what did the arbitrator say at the end of that arbitration? There is no doubt that the city's books are in a total state of disarray. So now do the math, everybody. 1991 to 2024. You know what the city said at that arbitration? They were going to straighten out their bookkeeping. They were going to know how we spent our money. And now our city administrator says we have absolutely no idea Who's buying what? Who the hell ever heard of not having a purchasing department and tracking your money? And I'll go back, and I got the sworn testimony. And if you want to come and see it, Seth, come on down. I'll take you up to Neil Rossman's office and I'll let you read it. You can bring Paul with you and Bridget. You can bring all this financial team that doesn't know anything except how to get money from us and not account for the money they have. I want you to read the testimony. When Rossman was cross-examining the treasurer and the auditor about money transfers. Well, you got $1 million going from here to there. Account A to account D. What's account A? We don't know. What do you mean you don't know? No, we don't know. Well, what's account B? We don't know. He said, so, well, why did you make the transfer? Well, we were told to make the transfer by Sharon Skeels, who at that time was in charge of it, personnel director. So then he asked a great question, and it's in here, verbatim. And if you want to see it, I'll take you to Boston. You know what the auditor and treasurer said when Neil asked him this question? So what you're telling me is you transferred $1 million from this account to that account, or whatever number it was, those accounts. And you have no idea what either account is, correct? That's right. And he said, well, so actually, if one of those accounts was my personal bank account, you would have transferred that money into my personal banking account. And you know what their answer was? Guess so. This is the worst administration I've ever seen. There's no accountability for anything. It's deteriorated into chaos over there. Every department gets to buy what they want. There's no accountability at all. 1991, this city told the state arbitrator that they would get their books in order. 2024, they're still in a total state of disarray. That should have ended the meeting right there. The city council should be calling for Boston to come down and take this city over. Because nobody knows what the hell is going on. How many times do they have to go to the council and never give them an accurate number? Or say, I don't know. I'm not sure. You can read the numbers on your paycheck. You can go to the bank. And then we can tell everybody, and Laura Sampson was right. I never thought I'd say those words, but I'm saying it. You want Boston money? Go work in Boston. You can't expect the same kind of money in Fall River. We can expect Fall River people now to pay Boston rent, but we know they can't pay it, so their solution is everybody go live in a tent and hope everybody from Boston moves down here because they can afford the rent. That's not the way you run a city for the people who rent it. Because that's what they're doing. When you go to arbitration, they use Boston. When you go to arbitration, you have a universe of 10 cities or towns of approximately equal size. One of them is you. So you have 9 others. We used to have Brockton and Newton, but the arbitrator's not going to let you use Newton because of the cost. You know, everybody's classified how much money they have and everything else, his ability to pay. I can't use San Francisco. We can't use California where the wages are 3 times as high. I remember one time when we were talking about pay raises, where I told the people when they were complaining about the pay raises, I said, you realize that a trash collector in San Francisco makes more than any public employee in the city of Fall River? Mayor, department head, or anybody. A trash collector. You know why? Because it costs 3 times more to live in California. Houses are triple the prices. But now they're doing it to the whole country. These people are insane. This budget really is smoke and mirrors. And they admitted it. We're buying shit and we don't even know who's buying it, if they're buying it. There's no numbers, there's no accountability. And I believe Michelle asked him that, and that was his answer. And correct me if I'm wrong, but that should have been the beginning and the end of the conversation. These people admitted in front of a camera. But remember, the day before, they spent all the time saying, everything's wonderful. Everybody runs their department so great. We're going to let them spend all the money they want with no accountability. Just keep spending it. And the next day, they're like bipolar. Oh, I don't want these people. If you don't like it, that's right. Look, I'm not saying don't pay people livable wage. I spent half of my life negotiating contracts trying to get a livable wage. But they wouldn't let me compare myself with the richest communities in the country. I couldn't do that. The arbitrator would have said, what do you think you're doing here? It's apples and oranges. You're not going to compare yourself with a city that's got millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of revenue, and their per capita and household income is quadruple what is in Fall River. You know what the basic thing of capitalism is, you idiots that are working in City Hall? You charge what the market will bear. And that's predicated on how much money there is in the market you're trying to sell things in. And you people don't understand that fundamental issue. And with that, CJ, I'll turn it back to you. You're muted, CJ. You're muted.
Sorry about that. What was funny about that meeting last night was both Bridget and Seth kept justifying what they were doing by saying, well, we're under training. We're training everybody. We're learning more every day. We're training people. And they were asked, why can't the school department have their own purchasing agent? Well, they might not be paying attention and they may violate, the open bidding process. They may violate 30A. They may violate this. They may violate that. They may make multiple purchases which exceed the amount which is supposed to go out to bid. And that's why we're doing multiple trainings. Okay, fine. But Linda brought up a good point. And I want to congratulate Linda on this. She said, we had one purchasing agent and one assistant purchasing agent for years. And that department ran without a problem. And then Seth Aikens decides every department is going to do their own purchasing, which he admitted yesterday he made a mistake. He said, where I come from, when you make a mistake, you admit it. The problem is you're making too many mistakes. You're making way too many mistakes. And Joe Camara, again, somebody else I got to give credit to, asked, you mean to tell me that we're not issuing purchase orders for everything? Well, we're not doing it. Well, yeah, there's a purchase order for things. We're not doing anything, subvertly. We're not doing anything in secret. No, an answer of no answer. You know what I mean? It's arguing in a circle. And Joe Camara said, I don't see what the problem is. How can you follow any purchases without a purchase number, without a purchase order number? That's how you have accountability. That's how you have accountability. Joe Camara said this. I was stunned. I was like, oh my God, this man's got his head together today. Something's
Well,
going on.
well, Joe Camara actually has to sell things, and they have to account for what they sell. He works in private sector,
Right.
and that company would be out of business if they did business the way they did. And let me get back to that excuse: we're training people. Now, when you're the boss, you're supposed to know how to do the job. You
That's
train
right.
people to do the jobs, but the CFO is supposed to be able to run the city. And the city administrator, did Bob Connors ever go up there? And Bob Connors had an answer for everything. Jim Smith had an answer. We've seen this city deteriorate into the school department because there's no accountability in the school department because they're autonomous. And they just they stick anybody they want in a job politically. And our mayor was a great example of that when he was over there. And now they're bringing that back over to the city. We can't let department heads speak because then you might know they don't know what the hell they're doing. Well, guess what? When this city was running at least semi-well, they used to call Frank Manning in from DCM at DPW at the time, and they used to skewer him. Then they'd call in the fire chief and the police chief and make them account for their budgets. They're department heads. It's their job. You're supposed to know. Our CFO is supposed to be able to run the city without hiring 3 other people to help her, consultants and financial analysts and everything else. Mary Sahadi ran it. She fudged a lot of numbers for propaganda work and to pad the budget. But if you pressed her, she had a number. Mary Sahadi knew what she was doing. We got a whole bunch of department heads and people in charge of our finances that don't know, frankly, their derriere from a post hole. We got a city administrator that has no quality. I mean, it was bad enough when we hired a mall manager, Kathy Ann Viveris. But at least she had to manage a mall. We got a lawyer that says he can't do numbers, and now he's controlling the narrative on the numbers. You think that's a tip-off why the city's so screwed up? You know? Yeah, she's rolling her eyes at everybody, and all she likes to talk about is Rhode Island. Well, guess what? You ain't in Rhode Island, lady. You're in Massachusetts. And we have different laws here. Let's talk about Rhode Island. You like Rhode Island so much, you're so up on Rhode Island. Why aren't you working in Rhode Island?
They wouldn't hire her.
Yeah, that's probably true. But the thing is that now we need a platoon to do the job of one NCO. And Seth Atkins will know that because he was in the military.
That's right.
Chain of command. Everybody got to know their job. And he wasn't an NCO, you know, because NCOs work for a living. I'm sure he was an officer. But the reality is that accountability, and we have none. This is the worst, and it's pretty bad. This is the worst I've ever seen it. When we took the healthcare in, it was fundamentally the healthcare. We have no problem with purchasing and stuff like that. As a matter of fact, the purchasing, remember this, CJ? You remember this. Remember, we could account for every little penny we spent in the old days when Linda said we had a purchasing agent and assistant.
Yep.
Remember the time that the gob shop got in trouble because they said they were buying all their paint just from him?
That's right. And
they would never know that now. Because nobody knows who's buying what, where, and how.
And back then, they limited the payment, the purchasing of the paint to less than $50. Remember, the purchasing had to be less than $50. So what did the city do? They bought the paint at 1 gallon at a time, just to be sure they were under the $50 mark. just
That's
to be
right.
sure of that.
Look, see, that's the problem with us. We got the keyboard warriors that have been sitting in the house eating Hot Pockets. We've seen it all in this city, and we're not talking, we're not making stuff up. This city actually could account for its money to a degree. Look, the healthcare money, they knew it wasn't. They knew they had our money. They tried to get away with it. They got caught with their hand in a cookie jar. They were going to use that as a negotiating tool. That whole arbitration started because the city said, we got no more healthcare money, so you're going to have to pick between healthcare or a pay raise. And I went, well, I don't buy that. I'm tracking the premiums. They haven't gone up that much, so we can't be broke. I get those reports and did them with a hand calculator. Then we called in Ernst & Young and we blew them out of the water. But the city said it was a mistake. It wasn't a mistake. They had our money in their account and they were going to see if they could keep it there. Then all of a sudden they found 5 insurance accounts that had been dormant for 25 years. And when Ernst & Young came in, look at people. This is an ode to why you have to vote these people out on a regular basis unless they stand up for you. Michelle Dion stood up for you. Always does stand up for you. That's why she's earned the vote, because she's working for the people. And now on that second day, apparently everybody had an epiphany now. Joe Camara remembers that where he works, he can't do shit like this and get away with it. He's not going to get away with, hey, Joe, how many shingles did you sell today? I don't know. I don't know. Well, take a guess. Take a guess. Joe, go find another job. This is bizarre. You wonder why your water rates going up, and taxes never stop going up, and we supposedly have no money. And Laura Washington was right. You can't demand the kind of money you get in other places. It has to be predicated on, the community's ability to pay. We knew if I wanted to make Boston money, I could have moved to Boston. I knew what I was making in Fall River. The cost of living was adjusted to what we made. So, I was fine with that. But the reality is, it's because they use that kind of rationale to get themselves a big pay raise. Oh, the mayor. Well, did you hear latest? I just heard that one up at the conference. The mayor of Quincy wants to get like $400,000, $300,000 or $400,000 now, because they did a study, quote unquote. That was like the time they wanted to give the mayor in the city of Fall River a pay raise. And who did they go look at? San Francisco, New York City, and how much their mayors are getting paid. Well, guess what? Apples and oranges. And when regular people try to go and argue that point, they say, what are you, nuts? You think we're going to pay you like they pay in Boston? You know how much money Boston has in their treasury? It's the capital. It's tax base. They don't understand any of this stuff. All they understand, government pissed the money away and were never held accountable. As long as you keep them in office, they will blow the money. Friedman was right. You give them the Sahara Desert, they'll run out of sand. The only way we will ever save this city before it completely ruptures is getting rid of these people. So, that statement about purchasing said it all, because we don't know where the money is. Well, I'm going to let her read the poll. It was a mistake, and I admit my mistake. Well, why'd you make that mistake? Would anybody? Look, you're a lawyer. I'm not going to tell you how to prepare a case for a courtroom, but got no business in this arena. You are not qualified at all to be a city administrator. You have to actually know how government works, not how a courtroom works. It's apples and oranges. But that's it. And with that, CJ, back to you.
If you're looking at some of the comments, I love Jeff's comment. Maybe we should make a mistake on his paycheck. I think that's very true. And Carlos, thanks for your input. This is the first time we've gotten input from you. Okay. And it was Carlos who asked if we can make a mistake on his paychecks. I'm sorry. Oh, sorry about that, Carlos. And what he said is true about Bridget. She is perceived as rude. And she does. She sits there, and you can see her on the camera rolling her eyes. It doesn't work that way. It just doesn't work that way. The people of Fall River want to know the information, and if you don't like giving it to them, tender your resignation. Okay? What I think, and I firmly believe, is that the next mayor of the city of Fall River needs to, on day one, as soon as he finishes or she finishes taking their oath of office, they need to turn around and say, I want resignations of all department heads immediately. You'll have to reapply for your job. That's not a well-received statement. But guess what? It's the truth. Because that's the only way we're going to financially take control of this city. I heard about how they determine raises for people who are under contract. Some have CPI, some have, other ways of calculating it. Some are at the whim of the mayor. Come on. We can't have this stuff. We can't have this stuff.
Well, CJ, they use whatever source they can to get the biggest raise. And
I know.
Regular people can't do that. But I have to disagree. The first order of business for a new mayor in this city is to commission a forensic audit. Period. Case closed. And not by the state and another politician. Get in Ernst & Young, private companies with no connection at all to Fall River like we did, and who have done trillion-dollar audits on states. The guy who did the Fall River audit for us, Jerry McGovern was his name, he had just completed auditing the entire state of Tennessee for compliance, forensic compliance. You can't run a city until you know. You can't run your house, but you run your house saying how much money you got. I don't know. Well, let's ballpark it. You can't. You write a check, it bounces, you're screwed. You go into a market and your wallet's empty, you're screwed. You go in there and you buy $175 worth of groceries and you got a $20 bill in your wallet, you're screwed. But the government does that all the time. And you know what they say? We're not screwed. Raise the taxes, raise the water bills, raise the excise taxes on the cars, raise everything. Break them. Break their backs with taxes. I got a list over there at Charlie Reese's last column when he listed 150 taxes that they instituted. And before that, they started instituting taxes in this country. There were no taxes. But the first thing you got to do is know how much money we got. And then, as you said, I'm not sure, resignation, it's a nice thing. But every department head should be called in. And with people who understand the numbers, you go over every single expenditure. And then you have those people like in Newton. You notice that Newton doesn't say department heads can't answer questions. And you notice, CJ, you've read the Newton budget.
I know.
The department heads are required to submit a budget with every single thing they're going to do for that year. Every capital outlay they're going to do for the year. And if they go back and tell the mayor and the council in Newton, well, I need another $500,000 because I forgot this. You know what they'll say? Number one, you're fired. Number two, you're not getting a 500,000. Get out of here. Because in addition to having what they're going to do for the following year in the Newton budget, there's also an explanation of why anything that was proposed in the previous year as a capital outlay was not accomplished. That's accountability. You know why there's accountability in Newton? Those people who have an average household income of $185,000, 75% of them have college degrees. They're not taking the bullshit from their council. They're not buying the propaganda. Isn't it amazing that the richest people are the ones who watch their money the closest? This city is a disaster. And they prove that with that statement. Oh, I made a mistake. Oh, who gives a shit? We blew 10 or 12 million dollars. We just blew 88 million in opera funds. Who cares? Not my money. Let the taxpayer worry about it. I'll be out of here in a few years. And this is the problem, people. This coming November and the following November, this November will be one of the most important elections in our lifetime nationally. And the following November will be the most important election in the history of this city. Because if we don't change course, we're hitting an iceberg like the Titanic. And we're all going down with this ship. With that, CJ.
Well, I think we've beat up the government enough today. I want to thank you all for watching. And remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. Remember, there's a city council meeting again tonight on the budget. Let's hear it for the budget. And let's see who represents us right today. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on Friday.